Hey everybody, this is James P. Wagner here again for another business book review. I'm sitting here in my back office at the Dog Eat Bard's bookshop. I've been doing a lot of reading lately, and I actually reread this book. I read it a few years ago, then I kind of forgot about it, and I was kind of brushing up on it, so I figured I'd give you this good one here today. It is actually a really good book, and I didn't know the author until I saw this book because I found this book when I was browsing on Amazon. Came up in my recommendeds, and with a title like "Work Less, Make More," how could you really kind of resist that? It kind of has the same appeal of the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, so I had to check it out. This is by James Schramko, who's an Australian entrepreneur and business coach. And like I said, I hadn't heard of him before I saw this book, but apparently he has a really popular couple of podcasts, or at least he used to have a podcast. I don't know if he still does it, but it was really popular. Had like hundreds of thousands of people listening to it. So after this, I kind of looked a little more into what he did. But yeah, this is the more about the book review. So we're going to get into the book itself. Um, there's a lot of good takeaways from this book. Like I said, I just reread it and it, kind of brushed up on some things. Because his story is, pretty interesting, and it's something that's kind of similar to a lot of people out there who've been in situations where they had a job and then they started kind of realizing that the income wasn't so secure. One of the main takeaways from this in particular is that, high-paying jobs can set you up for financial ruin, and how that's actually true more for high-paying jobs than for lower-paying jobs, because he talks about, when he was younger, his father had a very high paying job, and the family, became very accustomed to a certain way of living. They had, big house, cars, certain bills that were kind of all based around that lifestyle, based around the income that his father had. And then something happened with the company, and then his father lost the job. And finding another job at that price point became increasingly harder to do. Actually, then he found himself several years later, well, more than several years later, but when he was an adult in a similar position, because he was working in car salesmanship, and he was actually the highest paid and, one of the most successful car salesmen in the company in all of Australia, I think. And he kind of realized that he was making about the same as what his dad was, maybe a little bit more, but that if something happened to this job, there goes the income. Because when you base your lifestyle around a lot of income, and that's a job rather than multiple streams of income, like entrepreneurialism, et cetera, then, you're basically living on thin ice because something happens and then boom, there goes everything. So he kind of made that decision then that, okay, now I need to go and make my own, start my own company, do my own thing. And part of that was also that he was working a lot, like really long hours and all that stuff, despite how much he was making. He was putting a lot into it. And so he not only wanted to make multiple streams of income so that if something happened to one, he would still have it, but also he wanted to work less and do more things he liked, like surfing, and that sort of thing. And I could actually, even relate to this a little bit on a personal level, because like, my father was in, auto parts for a really long time, manager, up there, whatever. And then things started happening to the companies because, other companies came in and bought up this company or that company. And so he was kind of doing that shuffle for a while too. I mean, luckily he had connections where he was able to kind of, and a reputation for, selling really well. So he was able to kind of get in to roughly the same area he was, salary wise and all that. But it was pretty high up there. And it was, unusual circumstances that they would take them in, new at that salary. And I think, a lot of people can kind of relate to that. They used to say that job security was secure, but really these days, the job situation is perhaps a lot less secure than coming up with your own streams of income that, again, if something happens to one, you still have more there. Which is another takeaway he says, which is, he talks about getting paid many times instead of once. And this kind of applies in two different areas. He refers to the idea that, obviously you have a job, but even if it's a high paying job, you get, your paycheck either weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is. But usually, you're getting paid once. Everybody knows you get one paycheck, but you have millions of expenses, virtually, but you have tons and tons of expenses. So he refers to this in the way of one, having multiple income streams, but also he's referring to it with, because one of the things that he does is information marketing, and he talks about that in this. We've talked about information marketing on, a lot of previous videos, like the Millionaire Messenger. Tim Ferriss talks about, that in some cases. There's a lot of, digital millionaire secrets, a lot of things about that. But, one thing that people do a lot is that they put together a digital product and they put a package out there, they make an offering, it's this amount, and people buy it, and then that's that. He talks more about the subscription mindset, where it's like instead of just paying for an item once and then that's it, create like a membership site or a platform where people will pay a monthly subscription to keep getting access to it, and you keep adding things to it, so the value of it grows over time. But you're also, your cash flow is also increasing over time too, because then more people will join and that will happen. And so he talks about how you could turn, like, say you have a $50 digital product. He says, if instead of charging that one time, you put that digital product into a membership site, even if you're charging less per month, like say, $25, $30 a month, but you're getting paid every month for people to have access to the same thing. And then it, starts to compound and add up. So that's an interesting takeaway. Talks about replicating what works best. In other words, like, a lot of businesses, they're guilty of doing this, where they have a lot of different things, a lot of different income streams, but only a few of them are actually really active. And then there's like, a trickle here or there. He says, kind of like the McDonald's formula, where they, part of their success early on was that they used to have a huge menu and they cut it to only a few items because they realized 80% of their sales was in, burgers, fries, and drinks. So they got rid of like barbecue beef and like all that other stuff they had on there like really early on. So he kind of talks a little bit about that. And building communities, which kind of goes hand in hand with, like we just said, the membership sites that he was talking about, where it's like, people will keep on paying to have access to, the product, but also if you can build a community around something, like he has a, I forget what he calls it, but he has like a silver circle membership or whatever. He has two membership groups essentially that are focused on different aspects of entrepreneurialism. And so, for joining this, they get to talk to, him as a coach and some other coaches, and they get to kind of communicate with each other. And so they keep paying into this thing over and over, not only because they get the information he's providing, but also the information that the rest of them are doing. We see this with communities all the time, and, like different groups and things like that. So he kind of talks about, if you can build a community around what it is you're offering, around your business or your product or whatever like that, there's more potential for, repeat sales and people sticking around for memberships and things like that. And ultimately, the less time you have to spend chasing down new clients and selling new products, the more time you have for doing things that you want to do, like surfing. So I think that Tim Ferriss and James Schramko would get along really well. There are some similar things in this book to the 4-Hour Work Week. Again, well, the similar title, but definitely also a lot of different things. It's not so much about lifestyle design and traveling like Tim Ferriss, and it's a little bit more about, the multiple streams of income and, the dangers of not having that. So definitely worth the read. Check it out, Work Less, Make More. Again, I would, I don't come here with books that I'm not recommending you read. So pretty much you can tell if I'm putting it up here, I'm saying go out there and check it out. Also, if you can, I think that there's also a lot of information he has out there on his podcast still, even if I don't think he's active with it, to kind of help supplement the book and, things with, other gurus and other coaches that he talks with that might be worth checking out that's out there. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoy this book, and we'll see you next time. Take care.